When I was a kid, maybe 8 years old, my sister and I spent one winter night playing board games in her bedroom. Snow was falling outside in thick, lazy sheets, and we sat on the floor with mugs of hot chocolate, watching it pile up against the windows. It was winter break, so our dad let us stay up later than usual, since there was no school the next morning. Our house was a 2-story single-family home, nothing special, with a modest backyard, surrounded by a short chain-link fence lined with overgrown bushes. My sister's bedroom was upstairs and faced the backyard, while my room was across the hall overlooking the front of the house. That night, her room was warmer than mine. Our house was old and drafty, so we decided to sleep there. We were in the middle of a game. I was clearly winning when we heard footsteps. They came from above us, not inside the house. On the roof, the sound was unmistakable, a heavy, crunching noise like snow being compacted under weight. The steps were slow and deliberate, not hurried, each one spaced evenly apart. Whoever, or whatever it was, moved with long strides. Both of us froze a few seconds later. The sound came again, this time moving toward the back of the house. My stomach twisted before either of us could speak. Our dad came upstairs from the living room. "Did you hear that?" he asked. We nodded, I remember saying, half joking and half terrified, that it sounded like hooves. That's when my dad's expression changed completely. Without saying another word, he rushed to the window and snapped the blinds shut. His voice dropped low and sharp as he turned to us and gave very specific instructions. Do not look outside, do not open any windows, and do not go outside for any reason. Then he moved us downstairs to sleep in the living room. Hours passed. At some point, I woke up. I hated sleeping downstairs, and curiosity gnawed me. I gathered my blanket and quietly went back upstairs to my bedroom. It was freezing. My dad had closed the blinds everywhere except my room. My window overlooked a small section of the roof above the front of the house. I walked toward it, intending to finish what he had forgotten, but I stopped. There were marks in the snow, indentations pressed deep into the roof, wide and semicircular, almost oval in shape. I don't remember how many there were, but I remember counting them. They started at the far edge of the roof and led directly toward my window. As I stared at them, I became intensely aware of how dark and cold the room felt. A strange urge washed over me, strong and sudden. I wanted to open the window, not close the blinds, open it. I don't know why, but I was an obedient child. I forced myself to step back, shut my bedroom door, and go into my sister's room. It was warmer there. I laid my blanket near the radiator, but the feeling didn't fade. Instead, it grew stronger. I felt compelled, desperate to go outside, or at least open the back door. I was terrified of my dad finding out, but another thought crept in. He wouldn't know if I just looked. I crossed the room and gently tilted one slat of the blinds. The same prints from the roof were now visible in the backyard. They led away from the house, straight toward the fence, and stopped at the bushes. Something was crouching there. Even hunched down, its head rose above the bushes and the fence. It was watching me, and I was watching it. It wore a hood. Its face was long, far too long to be human, not a normal face at all. It looked like a snout or a beak, pale and white, almost blending into the snow around it. That urge hit me again, harder than before. I wanted to open the window. I wanted to walk outside into the snowstorm, but I didn't. I snapped the blinds shut, collapsed beside the radiator, and cried myself to sleep. I never told my dad what I saw, mostly because I had broken his rule and looked outside that night. Years later, I still argue with myself about it. Maybe it was a prank, maybe someone was messing with us. But whatever it was, I know one thing. It wanted me to come outside. This happened to me more than 10 years ago, back when I was a freshman in high school, and even now, thinking about it still makes my stomach tighten. My family had just moved from the city to the suburbs, and I didn't handle the change very well. I felt out of place, bored, and restless. School never really challenged me. I was always ahead of the materials, so I stopped caring. Homework felt pointless. Classes felt slow, and skipping school became almost routine for me. I'd rather disappear for a few hours and do my own thing than sit in a classroom counting the minutes. One afternoon in winter, with a snowstorm rolling in, I decided to skip the last part of the school day and head home early. The sky was already darkening, the air sharp and cold. I didn't want to be caught outside once the snow really started coming down. So I took a shortcut. I rarely used a narrow path that cut through a small patch of woods. I hated that path. I couldn't explain why, but the woods always made me uneasy. Even in daylight, something about them felt wrong, like they were watching you. I usually avoided them, but that day I just wanted to get home faster. Halfway through the path, I noticed someone leaning against a tree ahead of me. He was big, heavy-set, looked around my age at first glance. What immediately stood out, though, was what he was wearing. Shorts, a t-shirt, and freezing weather, with snow on the way. He was smoking a cigarette, completely unfazed by the cold. I kept my head down and walked past him, not wanting any interaction. I wasn't a social person, and something about him already made my skin crawl. Then I realized he was walking beside me. I stopped and turned to him, asking what he was doing. He smiled casually and said it was cold outside and that he couldn't go home right now. So he figured he'd just walk with me wherever I was going. Every alarm in my head went off at once. I told him firmly that he couldn't come with me and that what he was doing wasn't okay. For a moment, he just stared at me. Then he shrugged, said all right, and stepped back. I didn't wait around. I kept walking and made it home without further trouble. That night, the snow came down hard. By morning, several inches covered the ground. When my stepdad got home from work, he woke me up and asked me to come outside with him. Standing in the front yard, my heart dropped when I saw the footprints in the snow. They led from the sidewalk, around the side of the house, and stopped directly beneath my bedroom window. My room was on the second floor, so no one could see inside, but that didn't make it feel any better. The next night, I was in my room playing video games when something hit my window. Hard. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I stood up and looked outside, and there he was, the same guy from the woods, standing in the snow, staring up at me. I didn't go out alone. I grabbed my brother, and together we stepped outside. He hadn't moved. I demanded to know what he was doing at my house in the middle of the night. He said he thought we could hang out. I asked how he knew where I lived. He didn't answer at first. I kept pressing him until he finally admitted the truth. He had followed me home the day before. Then I asked the question that terrified me most. How did he know which room was mine? His answer still makes my blood run cold. The night before, while my family was out grocery shopping, he had used a spare key hidden in our backyard to enter our house. He knew my room because he had seen me change. He recognized it by the dirty clothes on the floor, the same clothes I'd been wearing when I first saw him in the woods. I told my brother to run inside and call the police. The man took off running. We didn't chase him. We just waited for the cops and told them everything. The officer we spoke to knew exactly who we were describing. And then came the worst part. He wasn't a kid. He was a man in his mid-20s with a history, multiple reports, arrests, and charges for stalking and breaking into homes. I never saw him again. But shortly after all this, our family cat disappeared. He'd never run off before, not once. A friend of mine later told me she had also encountered the same man. Her cat went missing too. Days later, it showed up dead. Its neck snapped. I'll never have proof that he did it. I don't know if he was ever punished for what he did to us. Years later, I found his arrest record online, filled with crimes too disturbing to describe. All I know is this: my family survived, and I'm grateful every single day that we did.